Welcome to Season 3, Episode 14 of the Film Bros Championship Podcast. I am Tim, and with me is my co-host, Patrick. How you doing, buddy?
I'm not a lawnmower.
All right. So we saw the movie Choke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to cheat. I know. I'm going to break my own rules. A sex-addicted con man pays for his mother's hospital bills by playing on the sympathies of those who rescue him from choking to death.
Yep, that is part of the plot of this movie.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of missing an aspect of it, right? Because he finally meets a woman who kind of starts to get him to question everything. And the life he's kind of living and all that kind of stuff, which is really the driving plot of the movie.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
So what'd you think of it? This is your second time around, right?
Yeah, this is the second time
Same for me.
watching this. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's going to end up in any kind of upper echelon, but I still enjoyed the movie the second time around. I think there was definitely too many enjoyable things about it where Sam Rockwell alone can kind of just can carry this movie and make it pretty entertaining.
He's a charming bastard, isn't he?
He really is, yeah. and even though Angelica Houston didn't get, and we'll gotta get into it, didn't get like the most amazing, like hilarious lines by any means or anything, man, she's amazing too. So yeah, there's some good stuff. I think it's gonna end up finishing middle of the road. I haven't looked yet.
It's in my upper half for this season. I'll say that much right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is a good dark comedy. You know,
yeah.
This is it tackles some really effed up, gross, dark subjects, but also remembers to make you laugh sometimes too.
Right.
And to make you more comfortable with the whole thing. And yeah, this is, man, if what just happened was even an eighth of this movie.
Right. Yeah. No,
you know?
I would agree. Yeah. I think it. I don't know. I think it definitely struggled a little bit to land the plane at the end.
I think the biggest struggle for this movie is budget. Like if they had more time, because I think they had a directive to you got to keep this thing short. We're not putting a lot of money into this.
Yeah, because there was a couple of notes I made where it just seemed like. Did we time jump a little bit? I feel like there's some gaps here that we didn't really see as much of the connective tissue. I mean, you can kind of get this is the way things were going, but like for instance, it just randomly jumps to a point and then you see him on a TV broadcast about him talking about the random stone construction thing they're building, you know, like he's all gung-ho about it all of a sudden. So there's I mean, you can kind of get like him getting to that point, but it was like a weird jump to all of a sudden go there. So there's just like random stuff like that I feel like is like a weird thing that's like slightly holding the movie back.
Yeah, Roger Ebert gave this movie 2.5 stars. He called Sam Rockwell the modern day Christopher Walken, which I was like, huh.
Wow. Okay.
I kind of like it. He's your go-to guy for weirdness.
Okay.
I was like, I kind of like that.
Fair enough.
He said all the pieces are there, but you have to kind of glue the kite together yourself to make it fly.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, I see where he's coming from. I enjoyed this more than he did, a touch more. But like I said, you definitely felt the constraints of the budget in this movie.
Yeah.
Like they had to rush things along, and from what I read, they didn't have much of a budget to go for. So.
It's still impressive to see what they got out of it, to be honest.
Like I said, still really enjoyed the movie. But I think that's why they had to cut corners here and there.
Yeah, so it's probably got, I think, unfairly judged. Because I remember, liking it when I did watch it for the first time. And again, I still enjoyed it the second time. I see its flaws, but it didn't take back from me being entertained and not being like what just happened where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it's a bit of a slog to get through, or downright angry, like, some other movies I've watched. But yeah, I think it's enjoyable. And I think it gets a little, it gets dinged, I think, too much and unfairly so, I think.
No, I don't think it gets talked about at all. But
yeah, you might have a point. Yeah.
But I think I enjoyed it more this time around than the first time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, just my own knowledge has increased now about sexual abuse and the trauma that induces in children.
I have to say,
so I saw like a lot more deeper and darker things in this movie than I did the first time, which I was just like laughing along at surface level stuff.
Yeah, like at least in the second time around, the knowing the reveal of the woman he's kind of falling for, knowing that ahead of time this time around, has made certain parts funnier on a rewatch.
Yeah,
that wasn't really funny when you're watching it the first time, but now knowing what the reveal is, it's actually like, oh, this part is a funnier time watching this the second time because you know it already.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun to notice in the second go around.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
So our hero is Victor Mancini.
Yeah.
He is a sex addict, but he's really addicted to the quieting of his brain obtained via orgasm.
Yeah.
He's a medical school dropout working a dead-end job as a colonial American reenactment actor, tour guide, and running scams to scrape enough money to keep his mother in an expensive private mental hospital.
Right. He's very fearful of her having to go to a state one.
Yeah, well, she's dealing with the effects of Alzheimer's, and she's progressing rapidly, and things are not looking good for her right now.
Right.
So he puts him into a bit of a crisis.
And it must have been happening for a while, right? Because you do see like a flashback towards the ends, like kind of when things first started going off the rails, right? And they really purposely went out of their way to make him look like a younger kid. Yeah, not like a kid, but you know what I mean? They made him look pretty young.
The classic version of like, we need to make this older actor look
Give him
young.
long hair.
Let's just brush the hair down.
Yeah.
So give him bangs.
Yeah, give him some bangs, grow out the hair a little bit longer, right? And he's like had a bad Thanksgiving trip or something with his mom or whatever, right? And that's kind of what starts him down this path.
Right. When we meet him, Victor's addiction is just out of control. He's constantly propositioning women, mostly to success. And if not, regardless if he's attracted to them, he's picturing them in their underwear or completely naked.
Yeah. Almost everyone. It's funny when we get to
and
that
even
later.
Sometimes using a mental Rolodex to figure out the exact size and shape of a woman's breasts.
Yeah. That was I think we're getting to the hilarity there, but yeah, that was a funny moment.
Besides his sex addiction, Victor is also addicted to pretending to choke in restaurants and getting saved by a stranger.
Yeah, because you do, again, see a flashback, because you get flashbacks throughout with his mother, and you kind of see, like, he does have a choking incident in his youth where his mother saves him and, like, holds and consoles him and stuff like that. So it's almost like he's trying to recapture that moment almost.
It lets Victor be more vulnerable and loved while letting the savior get a sense of heroism.
Right.
Down the road, Victor will send them a letter about difficult bills to pay, hoping for a handout.
Yeah.
On top of all this outlandish behavior, I think possibly the most horrifying thing Victor does in this movie is drink milk at a strip club.
That was weird.
How is that even an option?
It's weird. I guess they're really going out of their way to be like, these guys have a vice, but it's specifically...
I didn't even notice
addiction.
what Denny was drinking. I just couldn't take my eyes off the milk in a strip club.
I don't think he was drinking alcohol either. I don't remember, but I don't remember getting that vibe. I feel like they're very particular at being trying to show you it's like it's not like everything is their issue. This is their issue.
Right.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
So
yeah,
Victor subconsciously knows his addiction is wrong, his sex addiction.
Right.
But he thinks he needs it to help block out his childhood trauma. It's fascinating to watch him struggle like a pet that doesn't want to get picked up when he is confronted with the possibility he's actually a good person.
Right. Yeah, he gets outlandishly angry at the thoughts and hints of him being a good guy.
Yeah. And one of the patients at his mom's hospital confronts him and tells him she knows him. He was choking in a restaurant and her son saved him. And this resulted in her son getting a new sense of confidence and heroism, and his wife decided not to divorce, and they fell back in love. And like you could see the look on Victor's face, it's like very, very uncomfortable. He just hates it, hates it.
Which is funny because it's like that's exactly how he justifies what he's doing, that things like that happen, but that he's being confronted as this good thing now he doesn't like it, but because it's being presented in that way. And he has to immediately tell the person the truth and why that's not true and how he's actually a bad person.
Right. And by the end of the movie, it's very clear that Victor has this classic victim of abuse belief that he has to be a bad person. That's the only way that the person who put all this trauma on him, that he deserved it. That's really someone he loved did this to him, and he must be a terrible person to have, because he can't deal with the fact that the person who raised him was awful.
Yeah, and like it's weird because he loves his mother, but at the same time has made comments throughout the movie where he's like, can't you, like, I almost want this woman to die. Can't we both move on? Kind of a deal. So it's like this weird situation split that he's in. And then the mother reveals that there's something about his backstory, about his younger days, about his dad or something that she has kept from him. And this has set him on a path of, all right, don't die yet. I need to figure this out. Like, I need to know. And that's kind of like the driving force for Victor in this movie.
At one point, he has attempts to have sex for the third time with our female lead.
Yeah.
And fails.
Yep.
And he comes to the decision, I don't think I want to fuck you because I want to like you. And she responds like, have you ever thought that the two might not be exclusive? And it's just like this movie is just about him like coming to the realization that, just like identifying like why he is the way he is.
Right.
And perhaps this will set him on to a better path at the end of the movie. Like, we don't actually know if he will end up whole again, but he's on the way.
Right. Because it's like, isn't this basically, because his friend yells at him basically the whole time. Not really yells, but like pressuring him, like, you need to take that next step in their process.
The fourth step.
Like the fourth step, right? And I guess this is kind of it, the fourth step. It's just taking him a really long time and a hard way of learning what that step is.
I think the fourth step is to
confront all the
bad things that you've done.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't want to get into anything else so much.
Yeah, because it kind of trips on a lot of other things.
But just like Sam Rockwell just knocks us out of the park. Does the dramatic stuff and the comic stuff like amazingly. I love this character. I gave it a 3.5.
Oh, okay. I was thought you might go really far above me there. I went a 3.
Okay.
I think that's fair. I think a half point I'm okay with. Yeah, I can't. I guess it's maybe it's the nature of the movie that it didn't like take me further. But yeah, he's a really enjoyable character, and it's I thought it was a good story. It was good built. Like, you understood his kind of path thing the whole time. I think it's probably those weird missing gaps of where you have to kind of connect things together instead of it being there and not necessarily getting those achieved moments. That's probably holding me back. But yeah, that's why I went 3.
Yeah, no, I dinged him for a lot of the same things too.
Yeah.
Just not as harsh or slightly less harsh.
Yeah, because he is awesome. I love Sam Rockwell.
I mean, it's nothing to do with the act.
Yeah,
Sam Rockwell
for sure,
never gives in a bad performance. And he was, even that awful 3 Billboards movie, he's great in.
Yeah, agreed.
It's just, there's missing pieces there that, it's not the actor's fault, but that we have to just kind of do homework on our own.
Yeah.
Put more meaning into stuff because the movie won't spoon feed you. And that's fine. I don't need to be spoon fed, but
right.
I got to do a little too much detective work.
Yeah.
See through the stuff.
And I think as much as like, I don't need to be spoon fed. There's still like moments that I feel like should be fulfilled and achieved with and shown that they don't get, that is frustrating.
Yeah. And there's some stuff like that happens that we're like, the movie kind of just zooms by and we're just like, okay, we're not going to, this feels like kind of a bigger deal than that. And we're just going to keep on going. Okay. We're just going to wrap things up. Like, all right.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely the thing that holds the hero category back. Yeah.
So, favorite laugh out loud moments, the hilarity, Tim.
Yeah.
This movie starts
Strong.
amazing.
It starts strong. Yeah, it really goes right there. Like, I think it does a good job of setting you up. This is the humor you're in for.
It's a real, like, smacks you on the back, like, pay attention, like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm in.
It was going so rapid fire with stuff that I had a hard time writing stuff down, and I really didn't want to pause and ruin the flow of it, so I just kind of let it go and try to take down notes of what I could remember.
Opening narration for how Victor is in his sex addiction group. These are the legends. You've heard about them for years. The pretty housewife, you know the one. The friends burst in at the surprise party, find her spread eagle with the family dog licking peanut butter from between her legs.
Her name was Luann, right? Was
no,
that it?
that's
was
the
that
next
a different one. Okay, that's the first thing that I wrote down that I laughed at. Probably because again, it was so much coming at me.
Yeah, it's like, well, you know, you hear woman being licked by a dog in between her legs, like what?
Yeah.
No, I'm not familiar with that legend exactly.
No.
And then you got remember the cheerleader? She gets her stomach pumped, and they find a quart of sperm. Her name's Luann. I was like, yeah, that one I know.
Yeah.
Let's see. So during this sex addiction group meeting, the beginning of the movie, and pretty much every meeting afterwards, Victor will disappear at some point to go and have sex with his sponsee, Nico, who is in like a halfway house and is only allowed to leave to go to these meetings and I guess to work.
Yeah. And I love how I was like, and this is my sponsor. It's not going well so far. He's on the bathroom floor, and then he takes time to fill out her card while they're having sex.
Oh, I love to where, you know, he's getting ready to come and she's yelling at him like, just not fucking yet or whatever. So
yeah.
He starts like picturing baseball and old cheerleaders and religion just like projected onto her back.
Yeah.
While this is happening. It's like, that's great. My next bit was Victor threatening to beat down Lord Charlie if he docks his pay again.
Oh, I think this is also when you get him before that flashing through all the different boobs to see which one would fit the girl he's imagining.
Ursula, the milkmaid? Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really funny, I thought. And then I want to know so badly what he whispers in the children's teacher who was on there on a school trip, who just looks horrified and appalled. But then you see her walking out, fixing herself from one of the cabin things. So like clearly they just had sex. That made me laugh too.
I didn't write that down because it was a school teacher. I was like, I'm going to see what Tim does with this.
I mean, it's horrific and horrifying. Someone would do that on a class trip, but it was funny. Like, I thought it was really funny. And I was like, man, what did he say?
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were going to go into another one of your teacher rants.
Nope.
Okay.
Hey, from things you hear, even, you know, locally to nationally, you hear what happens with some teachers who make some real poor decisions. It's really not that unrealistic insanity, you know. So that's usually my problem, is when it's like so unrealistic and ridiculous. Like, I didn't think this was unrealistic or ridiculous. I just thought it was funny.
Okay. So after Victor threatens to beat Charlie down for docking his pay again.
Yeah.
Charlie says, "Bring it on then, varlet. If thou be a man, what sayest thou? Fucking knave."
That's what it got me too, is when he called him a knave. When they have to leave because it's the last bus out, they have to get it. So they had to like stop their argument or whatever. But yeah, that was really funny.
Fucking knave.
What does he call him? A method Mussolini?
Something like that, yeah. While they got this job in colonial America, whatever, they can never break character. They can never show any signs of outside technology or anything that'll break the magic.
Right.
So let's see.
Agent Carson with the old timey English, who's also the director here, is funny.
We're gonna have to start calling him Clark Gregg, at least for this. It's disrespectful.
That's how people know him.
We can talk about that later. But let's call
That's
him Clerk
fair.
Craig for the man wrote and directed this movie.
Oh, you're right, but I'm just saying he pulls off the.
He's
it's-
very, very funny in this.
It's very funny. Like you can immediately, he's doing it in a way, like he's doing it well, but he's doing it in a way that like it's really easy to laugh at him and be laughing with the other characters laughing at him doing it.
Oh, I have that even more later on, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yes.
I there's a part where like Victor has a bunch of pictures of his mom and her family thumbtacked to his wall, and
yeah.
his friend Denny is looking at them, looking them over, and asks, "Why do they look like that? They're Italian, like from Italy." Yeah. And then Denny starts to zone in on a picture of young Ida, Victor's mom, and begins to jerk it off. And until Victor catches him, he's like, "Oh no, not cool, man." He's like, "Sorry, she was high." Like, no.
Yeah. That's like one thing. Never mind. I'll get to that sidekicks. Never mind. Continue.
Okay. Okay. So the second time that Victor is talking to Ida at the mental hospital, she constantly thinks that he's like a dead lawyer, but it's a different dead lawyer every time with a different name.
Every time. Yeah.
And this time it's Artie. And she tells him that she feels guilty that Victor needs to know where he comes from. And Victor is just like, "You mean his father? You mean he's not a traveling salesman from Norway, Tourette's?" And he's so earnest in this.
Yeah.
Which makes it so much funnier.
Because, yeah, I mean, he's been told so many lies his whole life, so it
But they're
makes
so
sense.
outlandish.
Yeah.
But he totally believes them.
Which I guess makes sense, too, for when he does start to fall for this girl who's supposedly a doctor and the insane stuff that she says. He just kind of goes along with it. And it's like, you kind of get it once you see how his upbringing was and everything like that. It was, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I also thought it was funny, like when he first gets there and like throughout the whole movie, every time there's like a new nurse, and he always shows, there's always a flash of he's basically had sex with every nurse.
Yeah, everybody on the
this
staff.
hospital.
Yeah.
So even like they'll show like a nurse, she's like, "There's no way he had sex with that nurse." He's like, "Nope, yep, he did."
It's always in
That's
like
how
in a different
bad his
room,
addiction
in
is.
a different
Yeah.
position. Yeah.
Different position, different nurse, every single time is funny. And then like his interactions with some of the other patients, the old woman who's like, "You touched my woo-woo." "I did not touch your woo-woo." And he's like so offended, but the dialogue is
But then he's like
amazing.
kind of sweet about it because he
Yeah.
thinks that she needs some kind of closure. She's like, "Okay, I admit it. I touched
Yeah.
your woo-woo." "You finally admit it after all these years?" Like, "Yeah, sorry, I was a bad brother." And that comes back to haunt him later. We'll get into that
Yeah.
also later. I love at this colonial reenactment place, if you violate any of the rules, you get put into the stocks.
Yeah.
And Denny admits to constantly violating the rules on purpose to help him stop masturbating.
Yeah, I was going to say that in side characters, but yeah.
It made me laugh. So
Fair enough. Yeah, he comes up with a lot of ways to get himself to chill out.
he's
with
got
his
this like
addiction.
sheepish grin, like, "Oh, you got me."
Yeah.
He's all excited to get back in the stock. It's like, "I'm like a week sober."
Yeah.
And I think Victor's like, "You better watch out with that sober stuff. You might cause like a serious explosion if you wait too long or whatever." So the first outlandish thing with this character, Paige, Ida's new doctor, she tells Victor that she's thought of a possible way to save his mother through stem cells. And man, this is at that time where like stem cells sound like they could cure anything.
Oh yeah, because there was like even
That
like
could do
a
this.
what was a Family Guy clip of this back in the day where like Peter loses all his bones, he just goes into a stem cell thing, and then he comes out and he's perfectly fine again. And he's like, "Why are we not funding this?" That's like similar era.
I remember the South Park episode with Hackman and Christopher Reeve, which is really screwed up. But
Oh yeah.
anyway, so yeah. But the quickest way to get them, the stem cells, is for him to get her pregnant.
Yeah.
Which, what?
Yeah, it was weird because like as I was saying, like, man, how is he going along with this and believing this? But then again, he's like, seen so many lies. But then like it's interesting how he oddly tells the truth sometimes, but it is so outlandish his backstory that you can't even believe it. Like so like the where she asks about his ear and like how did he lose the chunk of his ear, and he's like, oh, I lost a chunk of it from a Lancelot or Ocelot
Lynx.
or whatever.
It was a lynx.
A lynx. Was it a lynx? All right. Yeah. So he's like a lynx. It's like, it's a big cat. Like, I know what a lynx is or whatever, right? And then you find out later that is actually legitly how he lost a chunk of his ear.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's just because his crazy mother, right? His crazy mother took him to a zoo trip and unleashed an animal, and that's how he lost his ear. So it's like a fun flashback humor, which was like, oh, and then
Yeah, no, I was like, oh my God, it was true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she decided to take him to like a midnight stroll through the zoo and free the animals because freedom is what they're all about. And the first thing she does is like a lynx, which attacks him.
He does get threatened by the nurse about a state hospital, and I liked that he even pictured her naked.
The head.
The head, nun. Like elderly nun.
Yeah, everyone. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
So anyway. Paige tells him this plan to have sex to get the stem cells, and then we cut to Victor and Denny talking at work, and Denny yelling in surprise, "You couldn't get it up? I didn't think that thing ever went down."
Yeah. Yeah, because it was like it coincided like right with he like looks up at Jesus, so it's like a weird moment. Like, was it Jesus that made him uncomfortable? Like,
wouldn't me. So later, Denny and Victor are spotted at work with a newspaper, and they get ratted out to Lord Charlie, who comes by to bust them. But at this point in the movie, he is trying out a new British accent, and the guys just are losing it. They can't stop laughing at him. And when Charlie asks for the newspaper, Victor mocks him and says, "What sayest thou?" And that's when I lost it. I love this scene. It's really funny. There's like the frustration. But like,
did they put it into poop? Did they put it into horse poop? Is that what they did? Like, I couldn't.
I thought it was like tar or something. It looked black.
It looked black. I wasn't sure if it was like, was it poop that they ended up putting it in? Like, I wasn't positive because it like goes everywhere too when he like pulls it out.
Right. But like
the old newspaper. I don't think they had newspapers. They were like getting them clipped up at that.
It really just works because of Clark Gregg. Never breaking it and never just being annoying about it. He earnestly believes like this is the right thing to do. And he can't stand the cynicism of Denny and Victor.
Yeah. And it works really well. The next thing I have is him sneaking into the facility, into the home, into the whatever, the ward.
Okay.
And I thought it was really funny, like, because this is when, no, you know what? I guess there's so many other things. I don't know. This is just the next highlight that I have. But there's like, he's sneaking in, and this is when he's got a diary, and luckily somehow this Dr. Paige knows how to read Italian, and she's going to decipher the book for him, the diary for him. And apparently, according to this diary that she tells him, that through some cloning and some foreskin.
I have this. I have the whole thing here if you want me to read it off.
Sure, go for it.
I had a bunch of other things before this, but anyway.
Did you? Okay, yeah. I'm sorry.
Paige translates Ida's diary, which Tim says is in Italian. And she says that Ida went to an experimental clinic in the Alps about a year after a collection of priceless relics had gone missing from Rome. 6 childless women were offered genetic tissue from one of these relics. 5 were a no-go, and the 6th became Victor. According to the journal, the relic was a sacred foreskin. The holy foreskin. Making Victor the son of Christ. Actually, the half-clone of Christ. And Victor, to his credit, at least, this one's a step too far. And he's like, no. But like circumstances, of course, then have him starting to possibly believe it because he's just so desperate.
Right, as it keeps going, and like all the other people, patients and stuff like that, clearly know all about this, and for some odd reason, he never thinks to question it at first. like, why would a doctor be telling all these patients about this? Because they start like following him around, like he's
Kissing
trying to
his
sneak,
hand, deifying him in
sneaking
murals.
into the hospital, and they're like sneaking next to him, all excited, and he's like, "What the hell?" And like, I thought that was really funny too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have at one of his sex addiction meetings. You might not think the best way to spend your first day of freedom after a lengthy incarceration would be to immediately resume stalking the trainee hooker who knocked out 6 of your teeth. And had you put it away to begin with? That's how I roll. That's Phil, the sex addict group leader, played by Joel Grey, Clark Gregg's father-in-law at the time.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So then you have Denny is sketching a dancer at the strip club, and she gets curious about his drawing and asks to see it. And she obviously likes it, decides to introduce herself. And she says, "I'm Cherry Daiquiri. It's not my real name." And like the little like knowing look that she gives afterwards, amazing. Jillian Jacobs really nails it. She doesn't get a lot to do, but she does great with everything she gets.
She does. Although I feel like this is another example, and I was going to kind of get to it later, but this is another example where I feel like sometimes the humor is so over-reliant on Sam Rockwell and like his reactions and how he bounces off of it. And that was one of the moments where I felt like a lot of times it was like she would say something, which was funny and she's nailing it, but at the same time, it's his reaction to what she is doing that really brings up the humor.
I love that she thought that she was giving like serious information.
Right, yeah, really letting you in here.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Well, or even later when she comes back later, because he makes a comment about a mole that she has.
Yeah, and blondes can more easily get cancer, so she better watch out.
So the next time we see her, she's now a brunette, and she says she dyes her hair because you know what she said about blondes. And he's like, "Oh, good thing,
good thinking."
It was just so nicely delivered, and it made it so much funnier.
Yeah. Victor goes to dinner alone and tries his choking routine, but the only person in the restaurant is a blind guy, and the panic on his face when he sees the seeing eye
realizes
is great.
Because it's on the seat to where he didn't see it from his vantage point, and it's just a great moment. There's like no one else. He waited for like the other person to leave, and that was the only one. Like, because in the first time you see him choking, he's like, there's so many people in the restaurant, he's really panning around and moving, and like that was a funny moment too, where like a girl starts to come to him, but he's like, swatch, never mind, and he moves because he noticed the cheap watch or whatever.
Right.
So and so now you see here he really has no other opportunity, so he has to basically save himself, and nobody cares.
Yeah, it's
a very sad moment,
but also very funny.
Oh, it's a funny moment, but it's like for character-wise, right? It's like what if his like he actually gets an embrace that he's accepting of, and he doesn't get anything in this moment.
Not that one.
Yeah.
So this Jesus thing kind of freaks him out, and he starts talking it over with his friend Denny. He says, "Let me ask you something. You don't think I'm a good-hearted person, do you?" "No way, man. You're an asshole."
Yeah,
I like Denny in this movie a lot.
Yeah, and you know what is never mind. I'll keep wanting to go to side characters here. I'm gonna save it for later for Denny.
Okay.
But yeah, so he goes to like he really freaks out about the clone Jesus thing when he's like surrounded by all these old people at the home late at night, right? And he's got to prove that he's an asshole. So he's just like he pants one lady. And then he like takes another lady's walker and he's just beating the crap out of it to prove that he really is not a good person. And his reactions there were pretty funny too. Like,
but that doesn't work for him. It's not enough. So he goes further. So he answers an ad for a rape fantasy.
Yes.
He's told he has to wear hose over his head, use a real knife, and rape her on the pre-laid out towel. Never the bed. Satin sheets.
Not the bed. Yeah.
Victor is clearly not into this. And he can't follow the directions.
Well, he's not. I don't think he's not only just not exactly into it, but this lady's a real jerk.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just like it's like how is any of this fun when you're like have so many stipulations and so many freaking rules and like
I don't know, man.
Get over yourself, lady, kind of deal. So
it's not my kink, but I can tell you, I would definitely struggle with it too.
It's like, are we, do you want me to use like the knife? Like,
well, yeah. She's like, he's like trying to do it and he's screwing up. And she's like, and he starts apologizing. Like, don't apologize. You have to demean me. Now hit me. And he's like, with the knife? No, that's called stabbing.
You didn't bring your own, like, what was it? Your own hose or whatever?
It's like, well, yeah. Is that my hose? It's like, yeah, the pharmacy down the street. It's like, shut up. God damn it. So she just gives up and forces him to hold the knife to her throat while she uses a vibrator. And this isn't working for Victor, and he's pissed.
Oh,
so
and she's like, you could just, what about me? And she's like, you just take care of yourself. But on the towel.
Right. And Victor decides to, instead of doing that, take care of himself on her bed. And like she just screams in abject horror when she realizes where he came.
Oh, but and then he comes back in to say the safe word.
Poodle?
Which was a nice, fun touch.
Yeah. So then we cut to Victor getting a blowjob from Nico, his sponsee again, in the bathroom. Yeah. And it turns out that she has shoved anal beads in him. And she rips them out of him as he's finishing. And that's where he screams, "Ow! I'm not a lawnmower!" And she says, "Oops," because it turns out one of the beads is still in him. It's like,
which is a nice ongoing joke that's pretty funny that I almost forgot about.
I did too.
And it wasn't until a bit later on that you start to get clued in, like, oh, because like for the rest of the movie, he basically starts to have stomach problems. Right. But they don't explicitly say anything about the anal bead. So it's like you almost forget about, like, there's like another scene later where he's like in a sexual thing and she's like, the woman's commenting about the noises his stomach is making. And I completely forgot in that moment that it was because of this anal bead issue.
I did too, until the final reveal. I was like, oh, right, okay. I now get all those other jokes they did before. But
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, she says, he's just like, little like, all right, well, I'm sure that'll work its way out. She's like, yeah, good luck with that. So then you got Ursula feels bad about ratting on Denny about the newspaper and getting him fired and begs forgiveness from Victor. And she'll do anything. And anything turns out to be a hand job that neither of them are into. Yeah, because it turns out she actually does like Sir Charles. Right, but like, while she's like jerking him and nothing's happening, she's like, if this was a churn, we'd have had butter an hour ago. And then, she starts telling him, like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, I'm really into Charlie or whatever. Right. I just, like, end up with the bad boys. Because he was like, she felt like he was ignoring her or something for a little bit. So that seemed kind of like what it was almost a little bit, too. I think I forget. Or she's someone that always goes for the jerk and he's actually a nice guy and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, she's freaked out about a nice guy being into her. But anyway, she passes out. She gets tired from all the jerking. Yeah. And like takes a little nap on his chest. And this is a great Clark Gregg scene. Yeah, look at that. You call him by his proper name. Thank you. I figured I'd give him credit for that. Since Charlie walks in and freaks out. And, and Victor tried to toss him down, have a heart-to-heart with him. Well, Ursula is... Isn't that your dick in her hand? Like, yeah, but that's covers her ears. Don't say that. It's like, it's not the same, man. Like, this isn't anything. It's, she actually really likes you. Like, what you got to do is just leave and pretend you never saw this. Yeah, cut her some slack, give her a break, kind of deal. Right. But it's actually kind of sweet that, like, Victor is like, this will work between you two. You just got to forget about this. This isn't anything. Neither of us are really into this. Anyway, this leads to... But he still keeps the old-timey for a lot of it, too. So it escalated it in humor even more. He eventually breaks character, which makes it even funnier. He does. But yeah, and he starts cursing, and it was really funny. It was a funny scene. As he's trying to explain how this is not a big deal, even though he's seeing them in a very compromising position. What's just great, too, is like he's like, he's freaking out and yelling, and Victor somehow she's still asleep through all this. She did a lot of jerking. I guess so. But like Victor is being like totally like kind of whisper, almost like, it's okay, man. No, he's talking like Mr. Rogers. Yeah, the very soft voice. Right. And she's totally nonchalant about this. It's wild. Much to Nico's dismay, Victor gets inspired to actually give the sex addiction group a legit shot. Yeah. And Phil asks him to think back to where he lost his way. And we flash back to Victor in college flying to see his mother. And when he opens the plane
Coming
bathroom,
back. He's coming back.
Okay,
From
whatever.
seeing his mother. But yeah.
It's really not important.
Whatever. I just remember because I remember him saying it was like a bad Thanksgiving trip that he was coming home from. So it's important because he's particularly feeling terrible.
Okay.
And that this is the orgasm you feel better. Yes, this was the whole thing.
Anyway, when he opens the plane bathroom door, he's greeted to a fully nude woman. Apparently, this is her favorite fantasy and loves to fuck strangers this way. And I think this is actually how Victor loses his virginity.
Did they say that? Is there something
she says something about him being a late bloomer.
Oh, I thought it just meant by erection because he didn't like get it hard right away.
I don't think anyone's ever used late bloomer for that, but it's possible.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, this is where his, love for having sex with strangers and using it to quiet his brain comes from.
Right. It makes him forget about everything and his woes and issues.
And then the next day at work, the police come to arrest Victor on suspicion of rape. And he swears he was just doing what she asked. But then the cop says, at 90, and he finds out it's an elderly patient at his mom's hospital who thinks Victor is her brother who molested her as a child. That's really woo-woo. And Victor laughs. I thought you were talking about the other rape. And the one cop's like, you do realize you're talking to the police, right?
Yep.
And then in the interrogation room, Victor tries to do his choking routine. And when the cop does the Heimlich on him, Victor simultaneously chokes up the ketchup bottle cap that he tried to swallow and shits out the anal bead that has been stuck in him.
Yeah. And then, did you just shit all over my
interrogation room? Yeah.
My interrogation room? Yeah.
With the look of like, just relief.
Yeah.
And Rockwell's face is great here.
Right. No, it is really funny. But like you don't get any like real conclusion after this. I guess they just kind of go like clearly he did it, so this got figured out and so on and so forth. I guess that's it, right? But there was not like it. This is where it really starts skipping around.
And the last shot of the movie is Victor naked in the plane bathroom, leaving wherever he was. And then a woman opens the door and enters, and we get a Victor voiceover. I still wonder about Paige. Another beautiful psycho like my mother, or a twisted soulmate sent to bring me back to life. Only one way to find out. And that's when it's revealed the woman in the bathroom is Paige, who I guess has been following him at this point.
I guess so. There's not a whole lot there to clue you in, right?
No, like the Paige stuff gets all rushed so fast at the end.
Yeah, I think there is a line saying that she has checked herself out of the hospital. She was there voluntarily. Although, like, you do find out, like, she was, like, catatonic.
For a year,
For a year.
I was going to get into that in the next category. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to be there voluntarily when you're there catatonic, but yeah. I guess the parents did. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't know. It's like a weird jump around. But yeah, that very bizarre conclusion there. But yeah, some real funny stuff. And Sam Rockwell is pretty darn funny.
That's all I have for this category.
That's me too.
I gave it a 6.
I went 5.5.
Okay.
So yeah, we're pretty close to half points with each other.
Mm-hmm. Supporting characters. So Angelica Houston plays Ida Manson.
Ida, yeah.
Who is losing a battle with Alzheimer's when we meet her.
Yeah.
Every time we talk to her, Victor in the hospital, she thinks she's talking to a different ex-lawyer she used to have. Later on, we realize that Ida has been mentally ill for as long as Victor has known her.
Yeah.
And she would
pretty much the whole entire time. Yeah.
Yeah. She would inevitably get up to some bullshit and Victor would be taken away from her and put in a foster home, but Ida would always find him and kidnap him again. Yep. And on her deathbed, she admits she's not his mother. And she originally kidnapped him from a stroller at a bowling alley in Waterloo, Iowa.
Yeah. It's so messed up.
It really is.
It's really messed up.
And it really puts into full context, like, all the awful things, that, like, these flashbacks. It's like you think they're bonding, but it's like, no, she's grooming him.
Yeah.
And like... it's like,
you even have, like, that moment, too, where he's, like... She's basically kidnapped him again, and, like... she's like mad because she thinks she sees like they might like each other as a
new foster mom,
a new foster mom, like as a mom son thing, and she almost kind of eventually gets him to kind of be like, no, yeah, I'll go with you kind of deal. But like, cause she does this whole like guilt thing, like, oh, you like her, you like this one or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah,
Yeah,
she's great. She's really good.
It's a really good performance because
it really
it's
is
a hard performance. Think
really,
about it.
she's not really able to be that funny because of her performance. I mean, maybe some of the times, because even in like the scene where she finally talks to Victor and actually calls him Victor.
Right.
And like you think you're actually like he actually thinks he's getting somewhere finally with his mother and having a real moment that he hasn't had clearly in years because he's, you know, always there as someone else. And then all of a sudden she calls him by a different lawyer name, and the light almost goes out in Sam Rockwell's face, like it's a devastating scene.
Yeah. What's really fascinating about the trick Angelica Houston plays in this is that you kind of get why Victor would sort of like adore her, because she has this rebellious, cooler than shit kind of attitude about everything,
and she's fun.
But like,
yeah.
And
when she does seem to legitimately care about him.
But then you realize like how awful she actually is. But it's also clearly a mental illness. So it's like
you do get two little bits, like, you know, eat your dinner, and then he's like, it's a paper bag, and he pulls out like it's a snowball and like a soda or tab, and it's like, wow, yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, and
but some kids might be like, cool, but like it's like, no, that's terrible.
And to like play this part and to not hate the character, that's a really good trick.
Yeah. And it's weird because she's having these lucid moments in her illness where she clearly like almost breaks down a couple times because she knows what she did is truly awful. And like she has these scenes where she's like, I don't know if I want him to know the truth because he's a good kid and this is, you know, bad. You know, kind of stuff. So it's weird. It's like it's a fantastic and really great performance, and she is so good in this movie. It's not exactly a funny performance, so it's like the only weird thing.
Well, dark comedy, so you can.
Yeah.
Kelly MacDonald as Paige Marshall introduces
Yep.
herself as Ida's new doctor, who is determined to help her get better.
Yeah.
First, by trying to get Victor to impregnate her so they can use stem cells, and then she just claims to speak Italian later on Transit Diary, which is where the Jesus foreskin story comes from. But it turns out Paige really
like her line where when he asks about the Italian after the reveal, which I can order some.
Well, let me get into the reveal now. But it turns out Paige is actually a patient at the hospital, a med school student who had a mental breakdown in her last week.
She got a B minus.
She got a B minus.
For like the first time in her life.
This put her into a catatonic trance for like a year, and she was nursed back to health while listening to Ida's stories of Victor, who she kind of fell in love with from afar.
Well, that and she's Ida's the one that put the lab coat or the doctor coat on her, which is like the first time they snapped her out of it, I guess, and so that's why they let her keep it on.
Yeah, to let her pretend to be a doctor around the place. Kelly MacDonald has a beautiful Scottish accent. And so this American accent that they have let her do is just devastating.
Yeah, I mean it's
nails
it's a
on
little
a
Liam
chalkboard
Neeson it's a little Liam Neeson-esque. But yeah.
Oh yeah, because you can see her like checking herself mid-sentence the way Neeson used to do.
Right, yeah.
Neeson doesn't even care anymore, but like
he just kind of lets it go at this point, or at least close to it. I think it's not as bad as it used to be honest.
No,
it used to be
caring.
worse. Yeah. But I think too, luckily they've I think Hollywood allowed her there for a while to kind of embrace her accents that are at least closer to her own and stuff like that.
Well, it's just what's so startling to hear this do an American accent. I'm like, no, don't do this.
And of course, Brave, underrated Disney Pixar. I think Pixar, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Anyway, it's a movie featuring a bear. You know I enjoyed it.
Underrated one, really. I feel like it doesn't come up much, and I remember like finally seeing that with my daughter and be like, wow, this was good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
she's great in it.
she's good in this.
Yeah,
It's
but
a
also
it's a weirdly written part.
it's a weird. And again, I would have to tell people like it is a funnier role once you know the reveal.
Right.
But it's not like you're clued into that, so it's kind of hard to kind of see the humor in a role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into the next one.
I had Denny second, actually.
Okay. Well, that's exactly what I was going to get into now.
Yeah. I mean, it's another one that's like a good performance and is only a couple times is funny. Of course, like there's a couple times where he's caught masturbating or prevention from to continue his start of a masturbation at least, which are pretty funny. But again, those are kind of like really funny Sam Rockwell reactions to what he's doing, you know. And there was like another funny part too with the where he starts collecting rocks, because it's something to do with his hands again, trying to stop himself.
He wants
from
to make
masturbating
something
all the time.
beautiful with his hands instead of punishing himself or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And actually, you know, something like positive with his hands instead of some negative stuff. Right.
Right.
And so there is, he's trying to explain like the rock thing or something. And then I love the Sam Rockwell response. Like, oh, I thought it was something stupid, but it's like clearly sarcastic delivery, which is really funny. And then I really love, and I think this is more of an acting performance necessarily than just humor, but the scene in the strip club for the second time where he's like, hey, like this is like we're actually going to move in together, and kind of like her real name is actually Beth and really like her or love her or whatever, and Sam Rockwell is just a character, right? Victor's just awful and just says like mean thing after mean thing. And the really great facial performance here of clearly holding in his full on anger and throwing things back at him, because he knows his friend is doing this out of like he doesn't actually mean this stuff, but he's doing this out of his like I'm a villain, I'm a bad guy, I have to play this role type of thing. Like he knows he's not. You know what I mean? Like it's a really great performance.
Brad William Henke plays the part
of
Denny. Rest in peace. Unfortunately, we lost him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And Denny got booted from art school for waxing his wiener to a live model. And at that point, Denny had been jerking it 15 times a day and could barely make a fist.
Yeah.
But Denny is earnest about wanting to get better and work the steps in the support group.
Yeah, he's really trying the whole movie.
And then the scene that Tim's talking about, like Victor's just lashing out, but Denny is a saint and sees right through him and tells Victor the honest truth. His relationship is triggering Victor's abandonment issues, and he needs to get over it.
But you can also see his anger.
But also his
that
patience.
His friend did this. Yeah,
it's like he knows he loves Victor or whatever, so he's not going to throw it back at him.
It's like a great like, hey, acting 101. This is pretty exemplary what he's doing. She's doing a lot of things in one scene, and it's really good.
Yeah, and it's a shame that I didn't get to see him in more stuff. The only other thing I could think I know him from big time was season 2 of Justified when he played Coover.
Okay.
Coover Bennett.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, great show.
He was great in that part too. But it was it's a shame. Shame we lost him.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. It's sad.
Yeah. Clark Gregg, the writer-director of the movie, also plays Lord High Charlie.
Which you kind of done most of his stuff, but he's like legitly actually pretty funny with all the old-timey stuff.
Yeah. No, I think he's great. And I just wanted to quickly shout him out real quick.
Yeah, no, he's solid. Because again, like I feel like a lot of the humor is all Sam Rockwell, at least reaction to Sam Rockwell, and like Clark Gregg is actually one of the few people that is actually like being funny in himself.
Apparently they acted together in a play, and so that's why Clark Gregg casted him. He's like, I know he can do all these things, everything that I need to do for this movie. And
Oh,
it's what
for sure.
they definitely have chemistry, and it works really well.
Yeah.
Jillian Jacobs as
That's
Sherry Daiquiri,
who I
aka
have
Beth.
next. Yep.
She only really gets 2 scenes to shine, one comedic and one serious, but she nails both.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's like 3 scenes, right? Because or technically 3.5. Because you get the Sherry Daiquiri moment, and like that's not my real name, and then the next one's the blonde one when they come back.
Right, but I
to
think
strip
that's
club.
funnier for Rockwell for that. So I didn't think that
Sure,
was
you do
her.
get like she's there helping him with the rock thing at one point, but she's just there.
Right.
But yeah, and then she has this like out of nowhere thing that makes everybody who watched the movie go, huh? Like she has this like poignant,
Victor,
insightful moment with Victor.
Victor asks if she if Jesus was wholly good, and she responds with like, "Well, in the New Testament, especially some of the Paul stuff in Galatians, Jesus was all about the idea people are transformed not by being loved, but by the act of loving somebody, no matter how difficult it is. So it stands to reason he could have developed this theory on his whole personal savior journey." And Victor is just like in complete awe of her after this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Because he's trying to convince himself, like, he must have been a jerk when he was a teenager, right? There's like time there missing, right? So he could have become a good person eventually, right? Just because he's like somehow believing this.
Right.
This
Yeah,
Jesus
no,
stuff
like
eventually.
he has to believe in this, like the idea that I can get better.
Right.
Um,
That I'm not innately bad.
which is also why supposedly Paige had created this whole Jesus ridiculousness to believe that there was some good in himself.
Right. Which is insane, but yeah.
It's insane, but it's coming from an insane person. So it works.
Very true. Very true.
But anyway, I just want to point out Jillian Jacobs is great. She was amazing on
Yeah.
Community as Britta, and she deserves to do a lot more work than she's
I
getting right
agreed. Very much agreed, yeah.
now. Shout out to Joel Gray as Phil, the sex addict group leader. He's so
Oh, well,
creepy and
okay.
funny and warm
Yeah.
when he has to be.
Fair enough. Okay.
And-
yeah, I guess especially in that moment too where Victor does finally kind of confront and take the group seriously. He has a nice little comforting moment there.
Yeah. And finally, Paz de la Huerta plays Nico, who Victor sponsors in their sex addiction group.
I don't have that. Okay.
Well, you know what? I knew her from Boardwalk Empire, so I felt like
Ah, man, it's been a while since I saw Boardwalk Empire. I don't even remember.
she was Nucky's girlfriend from like the first season.
Oh,
Who
Okay.
She had a bunch of scenes with Kelly McDonald, obviously enough.
fair enough. Okay.
But I gave this category a 2.5.
Same.
Okay.
Agreed.
All right. So
I had a high score of 11.
I have 12.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
Clark Gregg offered the naked woman in the plane bathroom role to his then wife, Jennifer Grey.
Interesting.
She said, "Are you out of your mind?" Chuck Palahniuk is the guy sitting next. The author of the book that this is based on is the guy sitting next to Victor on the plane at the end of the movie. Chuck claims that Ryan Gosling and Heath Ledger had been cast before Sam Rockwell. I don't know if that's true,
Interesting.
but Clark Gregg took like 5 years writing this script, and also because he was like stuck on the New Adventures of Old Christine at the time as a sitcom, so he didn't have time to actually make the movie. He just had the rights. So it's possible somebody got casted and left. I don't know. This movie had a budget of like $3 million and worldwide gross of a little over 3.9. Debuted in only like 463 theaters and came in at number 14 for the weekend, losing to Eagle Eye at number 1,
I remember that movie.
Nights in Rodanthe number 2,
Don't remember that movie.
Fireproof number 4,
That
and
was it.
Miracle at Santa Ana number 9.
Hey, I know that one.
Nights in Rodanthe is one of those Nicholas Sparks movies, I think.
That makes sense.
Is that the one with Richard Gere?
What about that other one you said?
Yeah, Diane Lane and Richard Gere. Fireproof, that one I had never heard of.
Yeah, what's that one?
It's a Kirk Cameron Jesus movie.
Oh, ugh.
Yeah, I know. Kind of really depressing. That was like number 4, but
I
there
didn't
you
know he
go.
was doing those movies that long. Jeez, okay.
Oh, so much longer. He was in that whatever that other.
Well, let's not even talk about him.
Okay, fine.
Um,
Works for me.
yeah. So you have it at 12. So you have a tie with Pineapple.
I'm bringing it under Pineapple.
Okay, I thought so. think that's fair.
Yeah. Both flawed movies. Both made me laugh consistently. Oh, not consistently, but they both made me laugh. But like the hilarity factor in Pineapple brings it above this movie.
Yeah, I think it's a funnier movie.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. So so even though I'm 11, you're 12, we actually both have it at 7.
There you go.
So it's interesting. I think this has the most, like, it's not like there's that many crazy differences besides maybe Sex and the City, which I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of schlacking on because it's like our highest listened to episode. But anyway.
Really?
Yeah, basically. It's like our biggest discrepancy is Sex and the City in the movie. But other than that, like, I feel like a lot of our movies are just like one or two switch. So there's like the most variance, but there's not that much jumps, if that makes sense.
Right.
So it's interesting. Interesting list so far.
All right. Next week.
Yeah, you got the pick, man.
Yeah, I think I need another really good one.
Yeah? You want to keep this going? Keep it going?
Yeah. So we're going to do Role Models next week.
Hey!
Which is streaming on Netflix at the moment of recording.
Okay, cool. Oh, it has it listed here as Prime too, but I own it too, so it won't be a big problem.
It's been a few
for me.
months, so
yeah.
Started this.
Since that's fair. I like that movie. It's weird. I always thought there was like a groundswell of people that was like, you know what, this movie was actually pretty good, because I don't remember it being like a big hit or anything. But then all of a sudden on Twitter recently, I saw some being like, let's remember this movie wasn't great kind of stuff on or X, whatever the hell it wants to call itself now. But I was like, what is this? What? I don't want any of this slander.
No, this was a pretty big hit.
I thought it was good. Yeah. But anyway, I'm down. I own it. I'm all on board. Good stuff. Yeah, man.
All right.
That is it for us. Please show your support for the podcast by leaving a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, or where you happen to listen to the show. Also, sharing is caring. Be sure to follow us on social media to get the latest show updates. You can contact us by emailing at filmbrochamp@gmail.com or find us by searching for the hashtag FilmBroChamp. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Film Bro Champ podcast. Peace out, everyone.
The Holy Foreskin.